Hello, hello, hello. Week 13 is here. I have a little video here on how to first sort of create your tile maps, um, after which we're going to implement them into Unity. This is going to be a part one of two videos because, well, there are a few things that I want to get into, and it takes a little bit of time, so I figured it'd be easier to digest. I also have this supplemental information here for all of you to enjoy. So this is a gentleman on YouTube that I personally think does a great job with the content, with their content, and definitely a great educator as well. So take a peek at that. I'm going to be doing my own sort of iteration of this video based on what we have going on. So mine's in context, his is out of context, but a good supplemental source for you just in case you want to get to know the basics of tile map and tile palette use outside of what I will be teaching you. Same principles apply though. It's just that we're using a template and we have to, instead of straight up implementing, we also have to erase some things and the like. So keep that in mind. I am going to go by his actual resolution per tile or sprite. So that being 16 by 16 sprite cells, so to speak. I'll dig into that in a minute. Right now, let's just create a little bit. I'll probably pause at some point. I'm not going to have you just watch me drawing, right? But definitely a good little place for you to just create, enjoy, and have fun with your work. So let's get into it. So right now, I'm actually in Photoshop, and just have to get my little remote here working. See if it wants to work. Yeah, we'll see. It looks like it wants to charge. I shall use the old keyboard. So I'm actually just pressing down Alt and using my little mouse wheel to zoom in here. And if you have a tablet, obviously that is ideal. But yeah, I'm just going to start creating some things. Feel free to follow along or skip ahead. I'll probably, like I said, I'll probably pause it at some point, so you should be able to just kind of feel the skip with me. I'm gonna go get a paintbrush here. You can also alternatively press B on the keyboard, as you've probably all figured out by now. Let's see what colors we have here. So for my colors, so I have. Undo that. Should be good. I want to there we go. Okay. Couldn't see my colors for a bit there. So I have a color window that popped up on another screen. I'm just gonna dock it right here. Let's say I just kind of go with that. And right now I want to make the, remember you have, so for the, just to give some context here, I think that's actually quite important. So what do we have to start out with, right? What do we have to make first? It's a very good question. So go in here to your My Courses, you can go into the project details and or rubrics and just peruse the rubric for O3C. So we need far background assets. These include clouds, mountains, sky, whatever your environment. I mean, if you're in a cave, obviously something much different may occur, right? So whatever environment you're in, you want to cater to that. Background assets, these are a bit ahead of the far background assets, a bit more in the fore, if you will. And then you have the level, which you'll be actually walking on, jumping on, etc. And then obviously the foreground, beautiful foreground. Put some flowers in front of your runner. Maybe they'll frolic in the weeds, etc. Tulips, lilacs, etc. So nice. Look through this carefully. It'll give you more context. But that's it, right? Platforms, walkways for the level, foreground, flowers in front, boxes, whatever it is, right? That your environment desires. But you also need to make sure that you finish off your animation cycles. There's only like 1 or 2 left. Just take a look at the animator window after selecting player, and then select enemy. Check both animator windows. Do you see a run walk cycle? Do you see an idle? Do you see that hurt cycle, etc.? Or just take a look at what you have. If you're missing something, make a simple little fill-in, right? It's okay if it's not fancy-pantsy. Do your best, obviously, with the time you're given. I will be understanding of that. That's it. And you're going to have to implement those, though. So not just okay, make the cycles and hand in the images, but actually implement them in the project. The deliverable here is actually going to be your first Unity project. Unity build, excuse me. Build. There we go. Unity build, not the project, right? And those have to be in there. This is very important. And I'll highlight that. So, not project folder. Because I cannot tell you how many times I get project folders. Don't want that. Just give me the whatchamacallit, the beautiful build itself. All right. I'll just bold that just so people can see. And there we are. Unity build. Thank you very much. Unity build. And the files that are required are actually therein as well. So there should be 5 files / folders: crash handler, data, exe, DLL, mono bleed edge. 5. Cool. I feel like Britney Spears or something. Some dance moves going on. Anyhow, continuing on, we have pretty much a good idea, I would imagine, by now what is expected. So let's go make this stuff, right? Go ahead and jump in here and let's have it. And if I'm just making a sort of, I just right-clicked on that just so I could get a different color here. Something like that. That's a good start. I don't mind the size of my brush, but I will change it to something a bit more like that. 32 is good. Just so I can get a nice kind of under. I'll get a couple layers going here too. Let's make that one. Well, keep your projects organized. So just make sure your layers are numbered at the very least, and we'll go from there. So remember, we're doing a 16 by 16 unit, sprite cell units, right? So my actual canvas here is conveniently set to 512 by 512. What does that mean? Well, let's get a calculator out, shall we? I think that would be nice. Calculator. Doesn't have to be 512 by 512, but it does have to be divisible by 8, so that we can just keep things neat and tidy Why does it have to be divisible by 8? Mainly due to the fact that, if you look at color structure, 32-bit, 16-bit, etc., those are functioning on that type of structure. If you look at the structure of resolution, technically those are divisible by 8, right? You can, 5. Okay, so let's actually get the. Oh, there's my calculator. Wondering where it went there. There we go. Very good. Pop that right there in the corner, nice and convenient. 5, 12. Let's just see what happens. Divided by 64. Nice. Okay. So we know that's a goodie. Whoops. 5, 12 divided by 16. Whoop. 32. Nice. So if you're using 512, obviously you can, scale it back to something like 16, right? Now, the one thing I would say though is, don't be afraid to go 32 by 32 for the units as well. It doesn't have to be 16, 16. You could do 32 by 32. I think that's totally fair. Now, let's test something else out. If you wanted to do 256, really keep things tiny in regards to the sprite size, optimization, all that, that's fine. But like I said, come on, 512 by 512 is fine. It's not going to kill anything. It's fine. So just do that, right? I'm just going to get out of that. Cool. This way you can actually see what you're drawing. Maybe you want some shading in there. It looks a little better, right? Things like that. And I'll get to more context when we get into Unity as to what I'm talking about exactly. I know it is a little bit confusing and maybe a little bit not quite something you might be used to figuring out, especially right now. So I'll get to that in context. I'm actually going to leave it right there. Moving on. So you do want to fill in the area. Now, does that mean you have to fill it in now? Not necessarily, but you do want to perhaps ensure that it is scaled to fit. Now, I wouldn't scale up, I would scale down just per the resolution of things. So you do not want to get your pixels in a bunch, so to speak, where all of a sudden they're just making new pixels and making a blurrier and blurrier image as you scale up. You don't want that. So always scale down. So let's say we're working with 512. Perhaps, we're not really getting it exactly where we want it in regards to fitting into, this kind of. Let's imagine this was a series of cells, sprite editor cells, just like, if you were working with the walk cycles, you would know what I'm talking about, right? So you just want to try and fill it in. If you can't, at least scale it down and then maybe edit your canvas. If you edit the canvas, it would be actually an image. So you go to image, and you would go to canvas size, and you should get a dialog box that looks like this one, and you can then go scale it down to 256 by 256. Just make sure that you don't cut off any of your drawing, right? So perhaps crop first. Actually, I would do this first and then scale it down to a or rather, let's see. I would just try to fill it in the closer you can. Probably maybe give yourself a go ahead and give yourself some margins, like something like this. Doesn't have to be crazy full, right? But it should be somewhat full. Bring that down here. Very good. Yeah, and then you would just start drawing. So I'm just going to make a goofy little guy. And obviously there's going to be land of sorts, a little platform And I would just use this maybe in my level as a sort of just a strange spot that people walk on, kind of a purple grassy knoll, if you will, right? Don't be afraid to go outside these guides, obviously. If you can't find these guides, remember you can go to View and Rulers. Go to Rulers, and then you can drag down your guides wherever you need them, and you're good to go. So that's just a nice little top layer for the platform. Below it, I want something else. I'm going to right-click on this color. I still want it to be within range. I like how it's actually giving me something familiar, something similar. I'll actually add that to swatches. Alright, cool. Once that's in, it's actually loading on a different screen over here. Progress, library progress. Okay, there we go. Press OK. And we can start editing further. We can actually just imagine this as a sort of land of sorts, right? One thing to keep in mind is, if these are tiles, they will more than likely need to be somewhat symmetrical. Otherwise, it's going to look a little strange. It doesn't have to be perfect, but something to keep in mind. So perhaps what we'll do is just have a sort of outside edge here. We can always adjust accordingly as needed. Maybe cut off some of these excess pieces, utilizing the guide as a actual guide, right? So think about that, and you know what? This actually needs some shading, right? It almost looks like it has shading, but it does not at the moment. So let's give it that. I'm going to go ahead and I will right click again on here, and this time I'll go in with a darker color, and I'm actually going to put another layer just on top of that, called 1A, just so that I have it separate in case I don't like it. And I'll bump that up. I'm going to use a soft round pressure size, that way I have the ability to adjust opacity as I go, but I guess I'll do that. Okay. So I'm going to draw just underneath it, and I'll get a little bit of shadow just underneath the little guy here. One thing I'm going to be careful of is, again, that spot right here. I'm going to use the guide to help me out, just so I can just delete anything from here and from here. Good. And I'll do the same on this side. There, and for this one, there, okay. You can do a Control D to deselect, and I'll do the same for the bottom. Cool. Delete, oops, and delete. Very good. Control D to deselect. Okay. And I'll save my work. And at this time, I'll just say, oh, okay, that's done. There's my little platform. Now it should probably go up a little higher. So, matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll go back to this and I'll adjust for that. Grab my little. Don't have that color right there. I'll hold down Alt just to steal that color again. Definitely gonna go back up to 100. Undo the opacity by sensor or by pressure. Go back to hard round pressure size, but that's it, right? And I'll just fill this in, and I don't mind keeping it kind of a little bit wonky. Can always adjust. Cool. I'll actually go ahead and use the actual eraser. I think that'll be fine. There we go. Just don't want it to look too sloppy. Alright. Save the work. Now we'll export as, and you would repeat this process for everything else. I'm not gonna make you stick around for the whole thing, right? So we'll export that as a PNG. 512 by 512 is fine. Transparency good. Be careful that you do not have any excess paint, if you will, on the sides here. That's just to help you out, so you don't accidentally have some lines. Good thing to do is to just kind of erase around the edges a little bit, just to be sure, but making sure that it's, you know, accurate and selected, of course. Okay. Convert to sRGB, that's good. Unity uses that. 512, 512. That's fine. We'll keep it like that. And then, now if you're dealing with pixels, obviously it's a little bit different, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same at this point. So we'll export that. Where are we exporting to? And actually, you didn't even see that screen, so let me just bring that over. So this is the screen you'll see, right? I was explaining how resampling may or may not be needed. sRGB is though, so we'll keep that. No metadata. Make sure transparency is on, so it's transparent behind your drawing, and then just hit export. And within this, you'd want to save it in your project, but for the sake of convenience at the moment, I am going to, I'm going to actually go in. I'll actually go into demo ASIC and we'll just go from there. So I'll go into this, into environment. I already have some stuff in here per our items. I think I'm just going to go right in an environment. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, cool. So this will be platform, and we'll just say B as like an option B, right? And just save that. The sprite will go there, and then we'll go into Unity after I finish up all these other assets, and we'll go ahead and continue with how to implement these things with a tile palette and tile map and the like. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna head on over to Unity.